Wicked for Good is the second part of the movie adaptation of the hit Broadway musical, once again directed by John Chu. If you didn't see my video on the first half, be sure to check that out, but long story short, I really liked it. It made my top 10 last year, it was very fun, visually interesting, had terrific performances, and some stellar songs. And going into this movie, I was excited to see how they were going to wrap it up, and after watching it, it was good, but I didn't think it was nearly as good as the first film. Firstly, it goes without saying, since this is the second half of the same story, it is very dependent on the fact that you've already seen Wicked, or at the very least remember it. It does drop you right in the middle with very little recap. It can feel a bit disorienting if you haven't seen part 1 in a while, but it also gives you enough clues on where everyone is in the story that you aren't exactly lost. Unfortunately, a lot of my problems come from the first half of the movie. It was fairly boring, it doesn't have the same momentum that the first film had, there aren't as many memorable songs, it just kind of meanders, which feels even more awkward after the huge, bombastic ending of the first. And maybe if these two were watched back to back, it wouldn't feel as bad because it gives you a bit of downtime before it picks back up again in the second half. But even still, I just didn't find myself as interested in what was going on as I was in the first film. The film is supposed to be much darker. There are a lot of moments that you expect to hit you in the feels, and they didn't because of how poor the pacing was. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, the show, or The Wizard of Oz, but one thing I realized going into this movie was that we were probably going to have to watch Elfie's wheelchair-bound sister die. I was expecting it to be a lot more of an emotional moment, and it really wasn't. That being said, after that happens, that is the moment the movie picks up steam and becomes really good. Things feel much more weighted, the emotions feel heightened, the songs are a lot better. Cynthia absolutely crushes No Good Deed. And the way they work in elements from The Wizard of Oz and how it kind of happens in the background, I thought was pretty clever. I was kind of torn on the ending. On the one hand, I figured it would be a lot more ballsy and emotionally effective if they went in a specific direction. But on the other hand, it does make sense in the context of this version of the story, and it makes the original Wizard of Oz look even more like a propaganda film. The things that are consistent with the first film are still great, the performances are absolutely fantastic. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande continue to have great chemistry, to the point to where I was fully expecting them to kiss by the end of the film. But the real heart of the movie comes from them and their performances. While not all the songs hit like they did in Act 1, they are still very well performed. The set design is still very nice, even if it isn't shot the best. And overall, I think both these movies more or less work as a complete narrative, but this really could have just been one movie. As much as I liked both of them, nothing about this story required it to be split into two parts. But regardless, I still think it was cool to see this musical brought to life on the big screen for people who didn't get to see it live. I would recommend checking out both movies, but with the caveat that part 1 is much better than part 2. Going to my ranking, I would have to give Wicked for Good a 3.5 out of 5.